Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakahakwadash, Barakathum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well, and peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Revelation chapter 9, verse 12. One woe or destruction is past, speaking of World War I. And behold, there come two woes more hereafter, World War II, which is past, and World War III, which is quickly coming. And World War III will go nuclear. And I opened up the video with this verse to preface an article on theguardian.com titled, Russia Tests Nuclear-Capable Missile in Warning to Enemies. Putin boasts new intercontinental ballistic weapon will provide rivals with food for thought. And Russia is going to use these nuclear missiles. They're going to shoot it onto the United States of America. And not only Russia, but Russia's allies like China, Iran, and North Korea, and also the United States of America's allies, such as Britain, France, Germany, these other nations, NATO nations, and they're going to shoot 200 million nuclear missiles onto the U.S., and it's going to turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea and a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. And nothing will happen to avert these prophecies dealing with nuclear destruction from coming to their fulfillment. This is 2 Peter chapter 3. I'm going to start at verse 10. But the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. The earth also and the works that are therein shall be burned up. And what's going to melt the elements with fervent heat and burn up the works in the earth? These nuclear missiles, when they begin to be shot to the ends of the earth. And the heavens that are going to pass away is this current age and rulership of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites, or the so-called white people, because in the scriptures, heaven and hell can mean a condition. Heaven when you're in rulership, and hell when you're in captivity. And the true children of Israel, who are known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today, are in their hell or captivity. But when these nuclear missiles are shot to the ends of the earth during World War III, there's going to be a complete role reversal. The children of Israel are going to go into their heaven, in the kingdom of heaven, and you heathen nations, beginning with you Edomites, are going to go into your hell or captivity, 1,000 years of hardcore bondage and slavery. And after that 1,000 years, these other heathens will be able to go back to their lands, though they'll still be under the subjection of the children of Israel. But as for you Edomites, every single Edomite man, woman, and child is going to be gathered up and permanently cold from this planet with fire. Verse 11, seeing then that all these things shall be dissolved, what manner of persons ought ye to be in all holy conversation and godliness, looking for and hastening unto the coming of the day of the Most High, wherein the heavens, being on fire, shall be dissolved, and the elements shall melt with fervent heat. Again, Russia tests nuclear-capable missile in warning to enemies. Russia has said it had test-launched its Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missile, a new addition to its nuclear arsenal, which Vladimir Putin said would give Moscow's enemies something to think about. The Russian president was shown on television being told by the military that the missile had been launched from the Plestek in the northwest and hit targets in the Kamchatka Peninsula in the Far East. The new complex has the highest tactical and technical characteristics and is capable of overcoming all modern means of anti-missile defense. It has no analogs in the world and will not have for a long time to come, Putin said. And where it says it is capable of overcoming all modern means of anti-missile defense, hey, that's also talked about in the scriptures. This is Joel chapter 2. I'm going to read verses 1 to 8. Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of Yahweh cometh, for it is nigh at hand. A day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains. A great people and a strong. There had not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. And that great people and a strong is speaking of these nuclear missiles. And where it says there had not been ever the like, that's talking about how these nuclear weapons came about very recently, beginning with those 2 atomic bombs dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima during World War II, the second woe. And where it says, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations. When these nations go to shoot their nuclear missiles, every single one is going to be fired. There's not going to be a single missile left in any of these silos. And then afterwards, when Yahushua HaMashiach, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus Christ, and the 144,000 begin to put you heathen nations in slavery, we're never going to allow you to build any weapons of war anymore. A fire devoureth before them, that warhead at the front of the missile, and behind them a flame burneth, that rocket booster on the back of the missile. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them. The land looks normal. You've got cities and forests, people, animals, life going on as usual, and behind them, a desolate wilderness. After that nuclear missile detonates, the land looks like a desolate wasteland, like in Fallout or Mad Max. Yeah, and nothing shall escape them. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen so shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. Still talking about the missiles, because when the prophets had these visions thousands of years ago, they didn't know what a modern nuclear missile was, so they described it the best way they could with what they knew during their times. Weapons of war, like chariots, horsemen, spears, bows and arrows, javelins, you name it. Before their face, the people shall be much pained. All faces shall gather blackness, or ash, or soot. These people getting burned up by these nuclear missiles. And here's the point I wanted to get to. They shall run like mighty men. They shall climb the wall like men of war. And they shall march every one on his ways. And they shall not break their ranks. The Spirit of the Most High is going to be on these missiles, guiding them to their targets. Neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk, every one in his path. And when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. And that sword is speaking of these anti-missile defense systems. And as it says, and when they shall fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. These nuclear missiles are going to get past these anti-missile defense systems and hit their targets without any problems. As it just said back in that article, the new complex has the highest and technical characteristics and is capable of overcoming all modern means of anti-missile defense. And when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. It has no analogs in the world and will not have for a long time to come, Putin said. This truly unique weapon will strengthen the combat potential of our armed forces, reliably ensure Russia's security from external threats, and provide food for thought for those who, in the heat of frenzied, aggressive rhetoric, try to threaten our country. The Pentagon said on Wednesday Russia had properly notified it ahead of its test launch, and adding it saw the test as routine and not a threat to the United States. But through the scriptures, we know that these nuclear missiles are going to be the ultimate threat and destruction of the United States. Russia is expected to deploy the Sarmat with 10 or more warheads on each missile, according to the U.S. Congressional Research Service. So that's it with this article. But like I've been saying throughout the video, it's going to be Russia and its allies, along with the allies of the United States of America, that are going to turn against her at some point during World War III. And they're all together going to shoot 200 million nuclear missiles onto the United States of America. This is Jeremiah chapter 50, verse 9. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon, the United States of America, an assembly of great nations from the north country referring to Russia, because what's north of Babylon, the United States, Canada, that Arctic Ocean region, and then Russia, and that assembly of great nations are not only Russia's allies, again, China, Iran, and North Korea, but also the allies of the U.S. that are going to turn against her, Britain, France, Germany, these other NATO nations, and they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows, those nuclear missiles, shall be as of a mighty expert man. None shall return in vain. And I'm going to jump down to verse 41. Behold, a people shall come from the north country, Russia, and a great nation, and many kings shall be raised up from the coasts of the earth, from the ends of the earth, Russia's allies and America's allies that are going to turn against her. They shall hold the bow and the lance, again referring to these nuclear missiles. And what do bows shoot? Arrows, speaking of the silos and other launch platforms that these missiles are going to be fired from. They are cruel and will not shew mercy. Their voice shall roar like the sea, and they shall ride upon the horses, everyone put in array like a man to the battle against thee, O daughter of Babylon, the virgin daughter of Babylon, Babylon the Great, the United States of America. And besides being known as the daughter of Babylon and Babylon the Great in the scriptures, the United States is also known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation chapter 11, verse 8. And what happened to ancient Sodom and Gomorrah? It was hit with fire and brimstone from the sky. And this modern day Sodom and Gomorrah is going to get hit with modern fire and brimstone, those 200 million nuclear missiles. And as it says up in verse 40, as the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah and the neighbor cities thereof, saith Yahweh, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. When the United States is hit with those nuclear missiles, it's going to be turned into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland where man, woman, or child will never set foot on ever again. And after a time, only desert creatures will dwell here, as it says in verse 39. Therefore, the wild beasts of the desert with the wild beasts of the islands shall dwell there, and the owls shall dwell therein, and it shall no more be inhabited forever, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. And the United States of America is going to stand as an eternal memorial as to what a wicked kingdom looked like, how not to govern the earth, and what the judgment and punishment was for afflicting the apple of the Most High's eye, the children of Israel, who are again known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong, as we can clearly see we're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.